Who really knows what lies between life and death? It's a mystery that has intrigued humans for centuries. Across the globe, countless cultures embrace the idea of reincarnation, believing that we live, die, and then come back again. From Hinduism and Buddhism to Jainism, these ancient traditions see life as a continuous cycle. However, not all share this view. For instance, Christianity typically doesn't entertain the concept of reincarnation. Yet today we're diving into a fascinating story where the unexpected happens, reincarnation in a Catholic home, the intriguing case of the Pullock twins, where beliefs and mysteries collide in the most extraordinary ways. In the quaint town of Hexham, England, back in the 1950s, lived two sisters, Joanna Pullock and Jacqueline Pullock. Joanna was 5 years older than Jacqueline. These young girls, daughters of Florence and John Pullock, lived a simple life with their family, who were deeply rooted in the dairy farming business. After their 4 older brothers, the family welcomed Joanna and Jacqueline, 2 little princesses, bringing a new joy to their household. Life for the Pullock family was serene and full of everyday pleasures. School days, play dates, and church visits were the norm. But as often happens, life was brewing a storm in the quietest moments that no one could have anticipated. On May 5, 1957, 11-year-old Joanna and her 6-year-old sister Jacqueline held each other's hands as they walked to church alongside their friend Anthony, eager for Sunday school. Their journey was cut tragically short when a car, spiraling out of control, struck them down. In an instant, the lives of these innocent children were lost. Joanna and Jacqueline died at the scene, and 9-year-old Anthony succumbed to his injuries on the way to the hospital. The devastation was profound, tearing at the heart of their family, who adored these girls deeply. The aftermath revealed a chilling detail. The driver, a local woman driven to despair by being separated from her own children, was under the influence of drugs and had intentionally crashed into the children. After the incident, the lady was arrested by the police. She was taken into custody, but looking at her mental condition, she was then shifted to a psychiatric hospital for her treatment as she was no more in herself. After this terrible event, Joanna and Jacqueline's parents, John and Florence Pullock, were heartbroken. Losing their daughters left a deep sadness in their lives, a quietness where there used to be happiness and laughter. No one knows how to console the parents who lost their children. John and Florence Pullock couldn't grasp the harsh reality that Joanna and Jacqueline were gone forever. Florence, in particular, found it impossible to believe that her daughters had truly left them. She held on to a strong belief that they would somehow return. Even John often looked out the front door, imagining his daughters running up to hug him. Whenever friends or family tried to offer comfort, John and Florence would insist, "Our daughters will return." They were too young to leave this world. They had their whole lives ahead of them. This unwavering conviction stemmed not just from their grief, but from a deep, heartfelt hope that defied all logic. Months passed since the tragic loss of Joanna and Jacqueline. As the seasons changed, a glimmer of hope sparked in the Pullock household. Nearly 9 months after the accident, Florence discovered she was pregnant. John, the supportive husband and father, accompanied her to every checkup. The pregnancy progressed well. Both mother and child were healthy. Then, on October 4th, 1958, 17 months after their daughters' deaths, Florence gave birth to twin girls named Gillian and Jennifer. To the outside world, this might have seemed like a typical joyful event, but there was an unexpected twist. During the pregnancy checkups, the doctors had detected only 1 heartbeat, and they predicted a single birth. The twins were a complete surprise, especially since there was no history of twins in their families. How could this be? How could the doctors have missed this? This mystery deepened John and Florence's belief that these twins were their deceased daughters reincarnated. Though devout Catholics traditionally do not believe in reincarnation, their love for their daughters led them to accept this belief, which is contrary to their faith. Relatives tried to convince them otherwise, saying that Gillian and Jennifer were not Joanna and Jacqueline. But every argument fell apart when John and Florence noticed the birthmarks. Jennifer had a small birthmark on her left hip, identical to the scar Jacqueline had after the accident, and Gillian on her forehead, mirroring the scar Joanna had after the same incident. These uncanny resemblances only fueled their belief that their girls had returned to them. You might think that this is nothing but a mere coincidence. However, the story has more to unfold. When the twins were just 3 months old, the Pullock family packed up and moved to Whitley Bay, east of Hexham. They were hoping to leave their painful past behind and start fresh with their 4 sons and their newborn daughters. But as Gillian and Jennifer grew, it became clear that even though they were twins, they weren't identical. Strangely, they began to resemble Joanna and Jacqueline, the daughters John and Florence had lost. 4 years passed in a blink. Then, one day, a routine family outing took a startling turn. As a car drove by, Gillian and Jennifer suddenly started crying and screaming in terror. Initially, John and Florence couldn't understand why. But they soon realized that any time a car passed by, the girls would react with sheer panic. This troubling behavior made them wonder, could this really be reincarnation? The mystery only deepened when the family returned to their old home in Hexham when the girls were 4. It was as if the twins knew the house intimately. They ran directly to the room they'd never seen, the very room Joanna and Jacqueline had once shared. But Florence and John had never spoken to Gillian and Jennifer about Joanna and Jacqueline and the accident that tragically took their lives. Then, how could the twins know so much about their late sisters' lives? They even grabbed Joanna's and Jacqueline's favorite toys, calling them by the same names their deceased sisters had used to call them. The sense of mystery grew when the twins, without ever having been shown, pointed out landmarks around town that were significant to their deceased sisters. They knew the school Joanna and Jacqueline had attended, recognized Hexham Abbey, and even found their way to a beloved playground, all places they had never visited. Not only that, Joanna was always protective of Jacqueline. Likewise, Gillian, who was 10 minutes older than Jennifer, was protective of her twin sister. All their personalities and mannerisms matched those of their deceased siblings. Adding to the mystery, Gillian and Jennifer had nightmares where they dreamed of being hit by a car, waking up screaming in fear. One morning in the playroom, a chilling scene unfolded that haunted Florence deeply. She overheard the twins reenacting a disturbing event. Jennifer lay on the floor, arms and legs stretched out, while Gillian cradled her head, whispering, "The blood is coming out of your eyes." "That's where the car hit you." The gravity of these words shook Florence to her core. The story of the Pullock twins caught fire, spreading far and wide. Researchers and media flocked to their doorstep, eager to uncover the truth. While some skeptics suggested that the twins' older brothers might have influenced their memories, others who observed closely proclaimed it a genuine case of reincarnation. As the twins grew, the intense memories and fears that had once dominated their lives began to fade, and by the age of 5, they had completely forgotten these early experiences. It was as if a chapter from a past life was closing, leaving their parents, Florence and John, with more questions than answers. What do you think? Is this simply a coincidence, a clever trick, or a true testament to a miracle that defied religious norms? Could this be a sign that a higher power listened to the cries of grieving parents and granted them a miracle, bringing back their daughters in a new form? This story challenges us to consider the boundaries of belief and the possibility of miracles. To listen to such mystery tales, subscribe to Plotline.